Background checks are an enormously important first step, but they can't help if a person becomes distraught after acquiring weapons. That's where the Extreme Risk Protective Order bill that we are here to support today comes in. It creates a legal mechanism for family members or law enforcement to remove guns from the home temporarily of someone who is at high risk of causing harm to themselves or others. There were over 150 gun deaths by suicide in Massachusetts alone last year. Research shows us that if someone survives their first suicide attempt, there's a 90% chance they will not go on to die by suicide because they'll have a chance to get the help they need. These Extreme Risk Protective Order bills, called ERPOs, give families a chance to get them the help they need. And then there are the tragedies like what happened in Florida yesterday. While there's still an awful lot we don't know, early news reports have said that they knew the young man had made threats, they knew he had guns, and that the police had been at his house with his mother, with her begging him to stop his behavior. What if Florida had had an ERPO law? How might things have been different? But even in Massachusetts, gun safety bills are hard to pass. The only way Massachusetts passes this bill is if you make your voices heard over and over, loud and clear, and only if you then reach out to your friends and your family and you have them come together. That is the only way this bill passes, even in Massachusetts. This bill doesn't cost anything. The infrastructure is already in place, but it can save lives. So I'm asking all of you who are here today, think about who else you can get to send an email, to make a phone call, to organize an in-district meeting. We need to make enough noise that the folks in the State House are wondering what is going on.
As we come together today, I am overcome with both sadness and anger. I am sad for the 17 families who lost their loved ones yesterday. I am sad for the victims and families of the Las Vegas tragedy this past October. I am sad for the victims and family of Aurora. I am sad for the victims and families of Sandy Hook. I am sad for the victims and families at Columbine. I am sad for the victims and families at Orlando. I am sad for the victims and families of all 34,000 needless firearm deaths last year. This should not be normal. Childhood should not include this. Our president, who said that the country was going to take a look at gun violence after the Las Vegas tragedy, tweeted out yesterday that we must always report such instances to authorities again and again. And then what, Mr. President? You continue to turn a blind eye to mass shootings, all while cashing checks from the gun lobby. Why are we sacrificing our kids' lives for the sake of gun manufacturers' profits? We don't give people the tools they need to stop these tragedies. His comments show a complete lack of understanding of both the current laws that govern our nation, as well as utter disregard for the families whose lives have been forever changed by these events. The events of last night and the 180 mass shootings that have occurred since 2009 all have different circumstances that surround them, but they also had one common factor. Individuals who were not of sound mind and judgment had access to firearms. I have said this over and over again. There is no one solution to gun violence prevention. However, as we stand here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, a state who prides itself on having some of the strongest gun laws in the country, this could happen here. Parkland could have been Plymouth. Columbine could have been Cohasset. Las Vegas could have been Leominster. Aurora could have been Arlington. And Newtown could have been Natick, Needham, or Newton. These could have been any number of towns and cities in the Commonwealth. It could have been your kids. It could have been my kids. These senseless acts of violence know no demographic or geographic differences. Parkland, Florida, was ranked the safest town in Florida this past year, and yesterday a gunman walked into a high school and took the lives of innocent students and teachers. Students who attended school with a gunman said they were very aware and concerned about this individual, and also stated that there was knowledge that he owned firearms. Reportedly, members of the shooter's family reached out to law enforcement, as they should have done, and they were powerless to take his legally purchased guns away. Legally purchased guns. Even with these obvious dangers, this person was able to purchase legally a large capacity firearm and scores of ammunition and commit one of the most horrific school shootings in our country's history. Even with important laws, such as background checks, we cannot always prevent someone from getting weapons. But in this case, we could have removed those weapons from an individual who is clearly demonstrating dangerous and threatening behavior. Studies have shown that individuals who are in the throes of a crisis and are engaged in dangerous behaviors are significantly more likely to commit an act of violence toward themselves or others within the near future. Tragically, the current legal framework rarely provides a mechanism for witnesses to this behavior to take preventative action. Extreme risk protective orders would allow family members, healthcare providers, or law enforcement to petition a judge to temporarily suspend an individual's access to firearms if they are deemed a danger to themselves or to others. The procedure follows a procedure similar and based on that followed in the Chapter 209A Domestic Violence Restraining Order law here in Massachusetts. This bill will save lives while ensuring critical legal protections for respondents, just as it has in states that have already taken this responsible step. Extreme risk protective orders provide families an opportunity to reduce the risk of suicide for a family member who is in crisis and provide safer circumstances in which to seek treatment or engage other resources to address the underlying causes of the dangerous behaviors. In Connecticut, that has an ERPO law, nearly 1/3 of the respondents received critical mental health and substance abuse treatment as a result of the intervention. ERPO laws work. Without action by Congress, their hollow words make them complicit in the frequent, senseless, preventable slaughter of school-aged children. The time for thoughts and prayers is over. It's time for action. Our President and Congress have demonstrated that they are not willing to take any action to prevent these tragedies. And it is for this reason that we need to take it upon ourselves here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to do what we here in Massachusetts can do to protect the residents of Massachusetts. It is time to call on our legislature, myself included, this legislature, and our governor to take action to continue to lead the country in gun violence prevention by asking them to pass extreme risk protective order legislation now. It is time to end the thoughts and prayers. It is the time for action. I ask you today to ask my colleagues here in the State House, bring an extreme risk protective order bill to the floor of the legislature now. Thank you very much for coming here today.
I am both incredibly sad to be here today and heartbroken, but I'm also really glad to be here today. And I want to thank everybody for coming out this morning. You're here once again at an important time. And I just wanted to come by to offer a few thoughts. First of all, I want to thank all of the wonderful members of the coalition who have been doing amazing work on so many fronts for so long here in Massachusetts. And in doing so, you not only help our cities and towns and our state, but you're also helping drive and shape what needs to continue to be an important national dialogue and an opportunity for change. So I want to thank each and every one of you for your participation in the coalition, for your advocacy, for your steadfastness, and for your just dogged determination that what is right, what is wrong is wrong. There's an opportunity to change things. There's an opportunity to go in a different direction in this country. The time has come. The time is now. I love seeing you out there, and you're everywhere across the state with your advocacy, and you're just doing an amazing, amazing job. And now, yeah, clap for yourselves and your team. Because now, more than ever, your work, your strength, your compassion, your passion, and your faith is needed for children and parents across this country more than ever. I also want to acknowledge Representative Linsky for his tremendous leadership and support over the years on this issue. So many of wonderful people in this building know what we need to do, have sought to put in place and in law here in Massachusetts, laws that actually save lives. There is a reason why Massachusetts has among the lowest gun death rates in the entire country. We have strong laws, and we enforce those laws. And I want to thank those in the legislature who have made that so. I think about some of my dear friends who I've come to know through this work. Liam Lowney, of course, a survivor and who so beautifully and wonderfully heads our Mass Office of Victim Assistance. We had our regular board meeting yesterday before yesterday's terrible events in Florida. And I want to thank the amazing advocates and folks who across the state in public health and in public safety are doing the work that they're doing. I think about my dear friend Greg Gibson. And every time there is a shooting, I think about the families and the parents, the children who here and across this country have lost loved ones to gun violence. I can't imagine what it is like to relive that trauma, to relive that devastation, seemingly on an all too frequent basis. And so my hearts go out to all of you. And know that I and so many draw inspiration from your continued effort and ability to focus on the future and what is possible and what is right. We're heartbroken today, and we think about the families and the community of Parkland, Florida. I think about the first responders who rushed to the scene. I think about the teachers and the school staff and personnel and other students who witnessed the most horrific of acts. And we think about and we understand, because we've been here so many times before, how this is going to play out over the coming days and weeks, the resources that we need to provide and the support we're going to need to provide. You know, in the aftermath of the Las Vegas shooting, I was proud that we could put our victim witness advocates on a plane, send them out to Las Vegas to provide support and services there. In any way possible that my office can support victims and survivors of violence, we're going to continue to do that. But I want to be clear about how important it is that more states do what Massachusetts has done, and that Congress finally step up and do what they have been all too cowardly to do, and that is to take action for the sake and the well-being of our children and parents across this country who are crying out and should never, ever have to wake a day, send their kid off to a playground, to school, on a weekend, to a concert, to a movie, to a ballpark, and worry and wonder about what might happen. This isn't normal. This isn't acceptable. This isn't the America that I grew up in, that my brothers and sisters grew up in, that our parents grew up in. We want kids to be able to go to school and focus on learning the ABCs. Instead, in schools across this country and right here in Massachusetts, we had young people as young as 2, 3, 4, 5 years old last night asking their parents what bullets are, how they get fired. We had schools that have been through active shooter training. and kids who know right here in communities across Massachusetts what it's like to be taught what to do if there's an active shooter in your classroom. It's hard for me to imagine if I put myself back in first or second or third grade or kindergarten. These are the lessons. And be mindful, as important as those strategies are and those steps are, and I have tremendous regard for the school officials and the public health officials and the school nurses, my mom was one, who do this work. Just think about the impact of that training on the psyche, the well-being of our young people. That's why what happens in Florida matters in Massachusetts. It has ripple effects here and all across this country. Make no mistake about it. But I want you to know, I believe now is the time to double down on our commitment, because we know what's right here in Massachusetts. We know what works. We have laws on the books that allow people to apply for and obtain guns. We also have laws that are absolutely imperative for public safety and public health, and that work when they are enforced. Unfortunately, we know how this is going to play out. We know what the NRA is going to do and say. Unfortunately, last week my office was in court once again defending the NRA's challenge to our state assault weapons ban, the very weapon that was used yesterday afternoon to kill 17 human beings. We're going to continue to do our work in the courts, but I'm going to continue to join with you in advocacy here and all across this country, because there is a different way. There is a different path. And I just think about it in the most basic and human of terms. And for me, it's about the children and it's about the parents. Life's hard. There's a lot to worry about. There's a lot to wonder about. We shouldn't have to wonder about the safety and the well-being of our young people when they go off to school, here or anywhere else in the country. It's as simple as that. Stay strong, stay steady, and know that parents and Americans want action on this, and we're going to see it through to the very, very end. Thank you, and God bless you.
My name is Greg Gibson. My son Galen was killed in a campus shooting, the random victim of a disturbed fellow student. Some years before that, my sister Wendy died by suicide with a gun. Both my sister and my son's killer exhibited many warning signs, but at the time, even if we recognized these red flags, we didn't have the means to put our concerns into action. Now we have before us a proposed legislation that will create an extreme risk protective order. This will enable friends, service providers, law enforcement officials, and family members to act on those red flags by requesting an emergency protective order that would temporarily restrict a troubled person's access to guns if they pose a danger to themselves or others. I can't say for sure that an extreme risk protective order would have saved the lives of my sister or my son, but I am morally certain that had such a law been in place, our awareness would have been greatly enhanced, and we would have had a valuable tool to prevent the warning signs that we saw from turning into the tragedies that we had to endure. House Bill 3081, Extreme Risk Protective Order, will help save lives. Thank you.